My name is Will Swires, and you are listening to the Re-Enchantment podcast. Re-enchanting business, art, and the world. Each episode, I talk to one of my friends from around the world to bring you insights into how to reconnect to your sense of childlike wonder to inspire you in your work, whether that's from home, at the office, on a field, on a court, on the stage, on set, or in a studio. Welcome back to Wonder. This is John, Ollie, and Sam, and they make up the award-winning theater company, the LATEBLOOMERS. Okay.
Yeah.
So, I will say, right before introducing them, I asked them, the one thing you cannot do is all scream at the same time immediately following when I introduce you. And then that's exactly what they did. So, welcome to the show, guys. How you feeling? How you doing?
Yeah, good,
great. Pretty good, yeah.
Yeah, we just had breakfast, English breakfast in Australia. How about that?
Mm-hmm.
Really good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's cool. Is there anything, what's an Australian breakfast like?
It's basically English, really.
With loads of Vegemite.
Yeah.
Kangaroo sausage.
Yeah, the only difference is you whack Vegemite on your toast.
Yeah.
What is Vegemite? I don't know what that is.
It's like, do you know Marmite? No.
It's like
another.
It's a black paste and it's vegetable yeast extract.
Oh, that sounds delicious.
Yeah.
Foul, sharp teeth.
It's really good.
It's good. And you put it on your toast?
Yeah, some scrambled eggs on top, and it makes love in your mouth.
It's a good source of vitamin B. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
a better way of phrasing it, yeah.
That's a weird way of phrasing. Yeah. That sounds like a great way to start this interview, though. So thank you very much. I just had
Great.
eggs. I had eggs and bacon. Very American. So.
Yeah, good.
So I'm gonna start with the first question. Some of these questions are kind of centered around a single person, so I don't know whether you guys will just, whoever thinks they have the best answer, I guess, just fight it out, or simultaneously all answer at the same time if you want. That'll be weird.
Yeah.
But my first question is, to me, it seems like every single artist has at least some sort of childhood spark that can be connected exactly to what they're doing now. So the example that I use is I was watching a Fred Astaire movie, and he was I don't know which one it is, I haven't found it, but he was dancing in an airplane, and he was tap dancing. And this was the moment I told my mother, I want to tap dance. And that was the moment that was when I started performing, and that was just what did it, and I'll never forget that. So I want to know, what are either some of the moments or people you met maybe, or what sparked you to become the theater company you are now from your childhood?
Hey guys, I have something to tell you.
Take it away, Oliver.
I was, as you, I saw The Mask and Ace Ventura when I was like 4, 5, 6, 7, something.
So
I watched them a lot.
The Jim Carrey movies.
Sorry?
The Jim Carrey movies.
Yeah, and I really liked them. I really liked them in his physicality.
Yeah.
And I was playing with my mom a lot in the living room. And that was some spark there. I wanted to be that, I wanted to be that.
Yeah.
To do that. I felt joy, with but the thing was, I think the important thing was to create that with my family, or like with the people close to me. The joy to get that was something there, the spark, the love in that. Doing something.
You associated the humor or the joy that was created with your family, so it created like a drive in you to want to do it.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah, a lot of love, that.
That's a great answer.
Yeah.
Wow. Guys, you have a lot to follow.
One thing that
That was touching.
I think that's the spark. I think where I do something and then love evokes together with someone else. You know, I feel like humor is about love and empathy.
Yeah.
Theory is spark, I think, and I think those films, amongst others, evoked that. When I was a little kid. Yeah.
Can I jump in? One
Yeah,
thing.
sure, Sam.
Yeah, go on then. Yeah.
Yeah, why not? Why not? When I was in year 6, we went on the school camp, and there was a little talent show that happened at school camp, and you all had to create something and present it.
Wait, what is school camp?
Like school camp, you go away camping
In the summer?
as a school group.
Oh, okay.
No, this was during school. Yeah.
Oh, okay, like a okay,
Like
I understand. I didn't know what you meant, but I get what you mean. Okay, so you're at school camp.
Yeah, we go away to like a designated camp area thing, and I went to do a little talent show, and my mate and I did this little clapping number, and we won the show. It was like a little body percussion piece, and I did that back in year 6, and that was actually one of the things that we use still in our show today.
Wow.
From all in year 6,
No.
I still use a little clapping number that we did, and I showed John and Ollie that, and we've made like a whole body percussion piece out of that, which goes nuts on stage today. And I remember that feeling of, as a little kid, creating something like that, something original,
Yeah.
showing it to the audience, and getting a great response. Amazing to make an audience feel that.
Oh,
I think that's what we do.
We had a little.
That's amazing, isn't it?
Wait. Pause.
That's the
Okay.
Yeah.
Technical
Sorry?
issues. Technical issues. Okay, we're back.
Yeah.
You hear it?
Yeah, I hear you now.
Oh, lovely.
But you were saying that experience, it was like something unique that created an emotion. Yeah.
It was like something that you created individually, but with my friend, we created it together as friends out of fun, and it was just really fun. And then the audience had a really fun time with us.
You want to say fun? One more time. Fun.
fun. Yeah, fun is a good word though. Fun is good.
So for people who don't know your show, the show that they're doing right now, which is called Scotland, right? If you want to, do you want to give an explanation to just to totally jump over Jonathan's childhood memory here? Just to connect it though, to explain a little bit about what the show is. What you guys have been working on now is a physical theater percussion piece that you have this connection to what you were working on when you were a child. That's what you're saying? Now, are you giving royalties to this childhood friend?
No.
No.
That'd be an interesting issue when he comes to see it.
We're going to Adelaide next after this, and
Really?
he's going to be seen in Adelaide.
Wow.
So I'll see what he's going to do. Yeah.
That's interesting.
It'll be interesting.
Jonathan,
So what do we do?
Jonathan, would you like to speak now? We should hear something.
Oh,
from you.
that might probably. Well, I don't have much to say on this. I don't know what to add. I will say this though. I went to see Hook in the cinema. You know Hook with the
with Dustin Hoffman and Robin Williams, right?
Yeah, Robin Williams. Yeah, I saw that in the cinema. I think it was 1991, so I would have been like 4 or 5 years old, and I couldn't speak for the whole of the rest of the day.
Wow.
I couldn't speak. I was just struck down with amazement. So I'm no child psychologist. Who knows? I'll leave it to you to decide how that's the rest of my life. But
that maybe goes into the thing you talked about, Will, about wonder.
Well, yeah, that's why I use this word spark, is because I think that when we get this sense of wonder, like okay, I grew up in America. Everything's very, very, very young here. And then I go to Europe, and I'm in these, beautiful cathedrals and things, even just in Paris or in Rouen or other places in France. And you see these structures that have been there in Europe for thousands of years, and there's nothing that old that I've ever seen from where I'm from. And you get this sense of just something massive and something wonderful and something mysterious. And I think that, I mean, everybody kind of rags on technology, and we're all looking at our phones and blah, blah, blah. But, you know, you do get this sense that you don't get that sense of the kind of endless mystery that is that wonder, that sense of childhood wonder that you can get as an adult from these expansive spaces and from nature and these grandiose, beautiful experiences. And so that's also what we're talking about here, is like there's that little child that saw that movie or whatever, that mechanism. I mean, something sparked you so strongly that's still driving you to search for that wonder and to create it and to create those connections today, you know? That's what I think is really like, what there's something that powerful that's driving you, you know? That's worth talking about, I think, you know?
I think we forget that as well, though, sometimes. A lot of us as adults, we forget about that wonderment. And it's good to check in with that.
Yeah.
To keep you creating new things and to keep you driving yourself forward.
Yeah, and I think that's certainly what we're doing in our show, isn't it? Like trying to create that for the audience, that sense of childlike excitement.
3 kids, aren't we?
Yeah.
I think be 3 big kids dressed in kilts.
Yeah, in tartan.
So now, do you I guess you've talked a little bit about the show. Is there anything else you want to say about the show? I mean, where are you guys going with it next?
Yes.
We're just finishing our run in Perth.
Okay.
And then we've got part 2 of the Australia jaunt is Adelaide Fringe. So we'll be on there in March.
And then 2 dates in Melbourne.
Melbourne.
That's how you pronounce it.
Melbourne.
Butterfly Bar. What was the name of that?
It's not called the Butterfly Bar.
It's not.
No, it's called the Butterfly Club.
Oh.
Well, you know what I'll say is I mean I was going to school, so I was going. This is probably a good moment to say that the place we all met was I was going to school at the Jacques Lecoq School in Paris, and Ollie, John, and Sam were all a year ahead of me. And there is this clown show that happens at the end of the second year, and they come out with this wild thing. They're all dressed up in kilts, and they're just doing all these complex hand clapping things, and it's this wonderfully simple and complex little thing, and it was just unforgettable. So when I heard that they were touring it around as an actual show, it was like, oh wow, that's amazing. And even there was a thing that I did. You guys didn't get to come see it, but there was a thing that I did at the end of the clown soiree, or the clown show at the end of school in the second year, where I was playing behind the piano, and it was this. I got really, really wonderful feedback from the audience and people's parents. I mean, it was really amazing, because and it was really inspired. Like, what can I do behind a piano that's not just playing the piano? Like, how can I use it as a little space? And that was really inspired by this as well. So it's great to have you guys talking to me now, because this, like, even something like that sparked me. Like, something sparked you that then sparked yourself, and then that sparks me to create something to then make this, which then I bring you on. And it's like this creative, I don't know how to put it, like...
It's like we talked about that this morning at the breakfast table. It's like an accumulation of inspiration.
Yeah. It builds off of itself.
Never-ending story, you know? You just sit on that dragon and you just fly in the air, you know? And it's like, woo! It's that kind of accumulation, you know?
Accumulation of inspiration.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, so why don't
I agree.
I actually have a question I'd really like to ask you guys, though, which is, so in any artistic process, like, I mean, anybody who creates anything, or really anybody who works in any capacity, has to be, like, consistent. That's what it means to be a professional, is to have consistency. So what what happens when you guys have an off day, or you just can't like? Do you ever feel like, oh, I can't perform, or like I just don't feel inspired, or like what do you do when you to get yourself in the zone to be able to be professional?
We had that last Wednesday. Was we were all feeling a bit off rhythm, because our show is so dependent on the pace and the rhythm of it.
Yeah.
And if we're all a little bit off because we're quite tired and I don't know, we're just thrown a bit, like that you still got to do a show. And for me personally, I like to just we before we do the show, we have a little ritual where we get together and we hold each other in a little group hug and we kiss each other on the cheek. Sometimes we hit the lips, but that's a bit awkward, but it's fine. And and we have that little get together, and you touch each other, and you're like, yes, we have to go on stage. There's no getting away from this. And I think you just kind of tune in with each other. And
that's the thing, that you have to do it. You have to do it.
It's your job.
Right.
But and I think then you just naturally start to. Once you get a reaction from an audience member or something, you just feel the spark again, and you feel lighter, and you start to sweat, and you feel creative again. Yeah. In the moment,
I got inspired by Michael Jordan's. Michael Jordan has said it's about his standards. It's about standards, and how can you give yourself the space to get to your own standards, because you compete against yourself, like the love you have for your profession or the passion you have. How can you get up to your own level of being, and I think we all have our different preparation styles.
Yeah,
I do some Feldenkrais or yoga or whatever.
Yeah,
get me in the zone or space and love.
Do you guys have a happy place? Like do you have like a happy place where you go to in your mind, where you can close your eyes and think about it, and then eventually it makes you smile, and then you feel better? Do you have that?
Yeah, well, I have a lot of different versions of that. I mean, I've worked on that a lot because I personally, like, I actually had terrible stage fright that appeared. What happened was I figured out I could perform in like 7th or 8th grade. We were doing Shakespeare, and I just figured out, I can just perform. And then I got to high school and I started figuring, you get self-conscious, and I went, how did I do that? And I got really hard on myself and really self-conscious, and I really struggled with stage fright, actually, because I kind of expected a lot from myself. The people around me expected a lot, because like, I could do really well in improv, always. But then sometimes when I would try to do a performance, it would be like I couldn't get into that same sense of spontaneity when I got to the lines sometimes. So for me, it was always just about like how can I just treat the audience like that friend that I can do anything with,
Yeah.
Like, even when we were in school, there were certain teachers that I didn't like performing for. They scared me. There were certain other teachers that I felt supported me. So I would just pretend like the audience was that one teacher that I liked that day. I would literally just try to play for that one person, and it would block everything else out. So for me, it's more about just focus, I guess. Well, I guess the same thing. It's just about focus. And kind of being ruthless with your focus, so that you just block out. You just go, no, I'm just going to go through generosity as opposed to fear,
Yeah. Yeah. At the moment, we've got whiskey in our show, so I just have a nip of whiskey and I'm good to go. Slippery slope, mate. I should stop that, really. Yeah.
He's going down. Sam, my friend here, he's going down.
I will tell.
He's going down.
I will tell you in this moment. It is a very short, very exclusive version of this story. I wasn't going to tell anybody the story, but now it's going to be available. So, there was a teacher at school at Lecoq who said, if in the first week of the humor thing, right? He said, I won't name his name. He said, if you were going to drink a little wine before going on, or drink a little alcohol before going on stage, this would be the week. So, before performing, I chugged about 2 or 3 glasses of red wine, and I am a lightweight. I sort of stumbled on stage like smiling, like I was gone. It was we got stopped in 30 seconds. It was a real experience. I realized I cannot. Wow. Yeah, it was really. I've never not cared so much being on stage. I was so relaxed. I was like, this is not real. There's.
But that's interesting. It's interesting how on school. It's interesting how on the school how they provoked that fear as well. The focus, the school is watching. They're sitting there like judges,
which is great.
They provoke the fear somehow.
Yeah, so
I think
you have to learn how to deal with it.
I think it's good because then like now we're performing for the public.
Yeah.
We're out there, and it's actually much easier than school.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so much easier. They're there because they're paid and they want to have a fun time, and most of the time they're willing to go along with your story if you take them there. They're not really judging you. They're just I don't feel like they are.
Yeah.
So school preps you for that pretty well, I think.
Yeah, they get paid to have a bad time.
Well, that does bring me to one point, and then I'm going to ask you guys one more question after this, and then we're going to wrap up. All right? But what I wanted to say is what you said earlier, Ollie, was about community. About when you don't feel like you're in the zone. The thing is, you guys are a unit. You're a 3-person unit. So if you're not feeling that well, when you come together as a small community, you can support each other. And then the audience kind of becomes another part of the community. And I think a lot of like athletes, a lot of writers, a lot of, even actors working on their own stuff. If you're Hamlet, you're alone a lot. So you can feel alone a lot. You know what I mean? You can feel like by yourself. Yeah. And I think what you said that really sparked something in me was like, like if you don't have that community built into the show you're working on or the project you're working on, like how can you make sure you still create that around yourself, Yeah,
very true.
I agree. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I felt that was I did a traditional theatre school in Sweden.
A traditional what school?
A traditional theatre school.
Oh, theatre school. Yeah.
Yeah. Acting school, but I felt like it's very individual focus about your own work, your own career, etc. Right. And I felt like I don't know. I don't really feel very attached to that. I think the beauty of theater is circus or the ensemble.
Yeah.
It's something amazing that can be created with that.
Yeah, that's the joy of how this style of theatre we're doing. It's created as a group, kind of devised as a group, and then performed as a group.
Yeah, and it's like we're very dependent on each other, and that's what I feel the show is about: the friendship and the togetherness.
What I've been feeling lately, though, is like the audience is a huge factor in how you perform, because the other night we had an audience that was, they weren't bad. It was just like so different, And a lot of the time you're like, God, are we doing a bad job, or are we feeding off the energy of the audience? And a lot of the time you're just feeding off the audience. Like last night's audience were amazing. They were so supportive because we get people up in our show. It's very interactive, and they were so supportive. This one woman was quite shy, and they were amazing. Like she's supposed to kick me in the balls, and she couldn't do it. And the audience were like out of their seats going, kick him in the balls, kick him in the balls. And we're like, this is wonderful,
Yeah.
What have we created?
Yeah. Became like a wrestling show.
Yeah.
Well, that's great, though. I think that's because when I read about people talking about historically the Shakespeare plays, the audience were like actually quite like a wrestling audience. They were yelling at like,
Yeah.
turn around, they're gonna stab the guy, and it was really interactive. And I think it's great that you're bringing that to theater, because theater so often can just become this passive kind of. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
you know, some shows you're lucky if the audience stays awake. So that's great that you're working towards that relationship with the audience.
Mm.
It's good fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. And to put devising in the room as well. I think the beauty of our show is also the beauty of the beauty of working with our show for me is we're creating everything together. It adds to each other. Everything goes on top, and we create together. And I think, as you're saying about Shakespeare, I think we forget a lot today that that's how they worked at that time as well. They were going. Shakespeare didn't do everything on his own. He worked with his ensemble. It was a huge ensemble, and they were adding on each other.
Yeah.
Collaboration.
Collaboration.
Collaboration. That's the key. Yeah.
Any
Cool.
questions?
Well, no, yeah. So my final question to kind of wrap everything up is just, what is something that you guys just like a revelation that you had recently, either whether you were working or an idea maybe you had for something you want to do in the future? I know you have other projects you guys are working on, or just like a sudden a moment. It's just something where something clicked. Maybe like even you were saying something happens in the audience, you know, one show can happen. I don't know, someone can just say something and it just clicks. Is there anything interesting you could tell us about maybe an experience recently where you just had like an insight?
Well, I suppose we could go back to, you know, the different audiences that we've had. And I think for me, it's like we hadn't done the show for about 6 weeks, and then we came back to it, and the opening night was just magical, you know. It wasn't so much a revelation, it was more so reassurance for me as an artist that what we're doing is the right thing for us, you know. And so that was it for me. It was like, I suppose that's a revelation as well. It's like, it's very reassuring to know that the work that you've created is actually working. And is bringing people this joy and energy that they take out into the world. So that was nice for me. You know? And, even if it's a bit of an off audience, it's still okay.
Yeah.
That you don't get self-conscious about it.
That's the thing.
Because it's their thing, you know. If they're not enjoying it, you just keep having fun.
Yeah. I think that's something we're still learning, isn't it?
Yeah.
Kind of how not to be fazed by the audience if they're quiet.
Yeah.
Because we're finding that they are still loving it.
Yeah, because obviously you try and feed off laughter.
Right.
You hear someone laugh, it fuels you. You get that burning feeling in you, deep down inside. You're like, awesome. And if they don't laugh, you have to generate that burning feeling still.
Yeah.
And think it's okay. You know, this is still great. What we're still having a good time.
But that is it's a uniquely weird thing about being a performer, because sometimes an audience won't laugh at all because that's just the vibe, but then afterwards you're like, oh, that didn't work, and they're like, oh, we loved it. It's like you can think something's funny without laughing, or you can be moved without crying, but it is tough because you're feeding off of something obvious, something ostensible that you can like receive from. So I think that's cool though, because revelation I don't think needs to be something new information. It can be like, oh my god, I love my wife still, or whatever. So you were like, oh my god, this show actually works. That's great.
Learning curve as well. With the first show we did with this show. After the show, people standing, some people standing clapping, and they were happy, and we went out. And before we went in again and said thank you, I said to John and Sam, "Oh my God, did that just bomb?" So I think as a learning thing as well to see how the audience reacts.
To read an audience. If they're standing up and clapping, it's usually a good thing.
Wait, they were standing up and clapping, and you asked if you bombed?
Yeah, we still joke about that now. Yeah.
There was one person who was standing up.
I don't understand that story. No,
We all
you.
came out. God and I were like really pumped, and Ollie looked a bit forlorn. And we were like, what's up, mate? And he goes, "Did that just bomb?" We're like, no, I think it was okay.
No, they were clapping, and they stood up.
Yeah, I think, yeah, it's a learning curve, yeah, to read an audience.
Every show is different.
Yeah.
Well, that's wonderful. I think we're gonna wrap it up there. We covered a lot of things. It was really nice to have you here for this conversation. I think we made something interesting, didn't we?
Yeah.
You know?
Lovely.
Yeah.
And it's always nice to talk to you guys. Like I said, I have to thank all three of you for inspiring me, personally, while I was working in the school, and that especially that helped me. I had quite a difficult second year in school, so sometimes just having the memory of those things was really useful to me as a performer. So I'm really grateful for that. And yeah, thank you for coming on, and keep us updated on what you're doing with the show, and who knows, maybe we'll talk again soon.
Yeah.
Hey, we'd like to take Scotland to America, so maybe that's our next destination.
Oh, yes.
You need some.
We could come to Minnesota, man, and meet you up there.
So Ollie thinks I live in Minnesota, but in fact I live in undisclosed location that I'm not going to say on a podcast. Undisclosed American location. Find me. If you find me, you get a free Late Bloomers t-shirt. if you can find my location. Anyway, thank you so much, guys. Any last words you want to say anything you want to say to people before you go?
Thanks for having us.
Oh, you're welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for all good to talk.
Bisou. Shall we finish up with a song?
Okay.
You take the high road and I'll take the low. I in Scotland are falling. For me and my true love will never meet again. By on bonny, bonny banks of Loch Lomond.
Oh boy.